Okay, so now we're going to expand on sketching angles, and we're going to actually find some pieces from these angles. So we're going to find what's called a reference angle and what's called a coterminal angle. So these will be important throughout trig. First thing you want to do is kind of sketch it out. So 76 degrees, first quadrant. There's my 76. Your reference angle always has to be acute. So it has to be less than or equal to 90. And it has to fall, it's always what does it take to get to the closest x-axis basically. So for this angle, it fell in the first quadrant. Well, to get back to that x-axis in the shortest amount of time would be 76 degrees. So my reference angle is 76 degrees. It's always positive, it can never be negative, so think of it that way. Coterminal, couple different ways you could think of them. It's just another angle that's going to stop in this same exact location. So I need it to fall where that black dashed line is. I cannot use the same angle. I can't say 76 degrees is coterminal with 76. It's the same angle. What you can do is you can go in the opposite direction because we said our restrictions were negative 360 to positive 360. So if I go backwards, that angle is going to fall in the same exact location. So to find that, I would do 360 minus 76, and that's going to give me 284 degrees. And that's your coterminal angle. There technically are an infinite number of coterminal angles. You just have to pay attention to what your restrictions give you. So if there's no restrictions, you could just add 360 to your 76 an infinite number of times. Or you could subtract 360 and go backwards, and those would all be coterminal. Now with radians, same process. So we sketch it. So remember, this is 5 pi over 5. We only want 2 of those. So this one you may want to break down a little bit further. Halfway would be 2.5 pi over 5, half of that. So this actually is falling in a very similar location. Reference angle, well, we're asking ourselves, what does it take to get back to that x-axis? For this one, it's just 2 pi over 5. Coterminal could be a little bit trickier. So what I would do is I would say, okay, this would be 10 pi over 5. I'm going to say, what does it take to make one complete revolution? So if I go backwards, I'm taking my 2 pi over 5, and I'm subtracting that 10 pi. Instead of 360, I'm subtracting 2 pi. But a form of 2 pi with the same denominator is going to be 10 pi over 5. So that together they make one complete revolution. So that's going to give me negative 8 pi over 5. You could also add 10 pi over 5, but that would take me outside of my restrictions. Then we've got a couple negatives. So the same process. This would be 3 over 3. This would be 6 over 3. Well, we want negative 7. So if I go back one complete circle, that's negative 6. I need a little bit further. So I'm going to go about here. And that would be my complete sketch. Reference angle is what's it take to get back to that x-axis? Well, if you think about it, one revolution was 6. We went to 7. So this distance right here would be 1 pi over 3. That's your reference angle, and it's always positive, never negative. Then my coterminal angle, we got lots of options. If we want it, let's do a positive one. So we start here and we go forward to find that. If we were to go all the way around, it would be 6 pi over 3. But we already said that this distance was 1 pi over 3. So we would take it from 6, back up 1, that makes it 5 pi over 3. Trickier with the radians just because you're not as familiar with them. So just stick with it. They will get more comfortable as you work with them. And then the last thing we've got is 415, but it's negative. So there's negative 360. I got to go 55 more. So I know that this distance was 55 degrees. Well, that happened to be my reference angle. Coterminal, I could say negative 55. I'm going to put that on there. I could also go in this direction, and I could say 360 minus 55, and that gives me 305. So I'm just putting multiple options. You only need one, but there's multiple for all of these. So reference and coterminal. Reference has to be acute. Coterminal can be anything.